Let's continue with what I was saying yesterday in regards to artificial intelligence. Master, slave. Master, slave is literally the core of any artificial intelligence system. Why do I say the core? Well, the core itself is like the heart, the one thing that pumps everything out. Outside that which is, outside that which is a system that builds or formulates into a body. The body, of course, is everything else. The heart pumps up the blood and makes everything else function as is. No heart, no fucking artificial intelligence. No pumping, there is no that which is continuation. The pump is literally how a certain, see it as a vertical code, meaning just in front of your computer, just as in front of your fucking screen, you have the code, it's placed out vertically. Everything you see right now today is based upon a previous system. A previous system, a previous system, a previous system. Go back to the 80s and you will find that which is the definition of what artificial intelligence is today. Master and slave. That's all there is to it. So you see, master and slave, everything you see besides it, meaning everything you see right now today, nothing shows tendencies of master and slave, right? Well, that's because each and every single artificial system, each and every single programming code or software language, each and every single thing that is being created shows less and less of it. But it's still out there. It's still way out in the 80s and still being literally the defining point of each and every single artificial system we have today. Hierarchy. Hierarchy defines how a certain input becomes an output, right? So you understand is that it's the heart, it's the thing that pumps everything out. Now, once you look at the body, the physical body, it's not visible. The heart is not visible. Once we look at it from the outside, it's not visible. Nothing is actually visible. You understand? But it's the one thing that makes everything fucking function. The heart itself. It keeps on pumping. And the word pump is very, very important here. Because the word pump defines something. Hierarchy. The word pump defines that which is master and slave. Meaning something that owns something else. Throughout this BMI, throughout the brain-machine interface, I've always said it, I said it in the previous video. There's only one thing you can do in a BMI, and that is to be either a master or a slave. That's all there is to it. There is no other fucking function. There is no other function. There is no other relationship. Everything else is delusion. I'm defining and I'm telling you that all of Sweden is participating in a fucking MK Ultra system. Now you can take a guess at this point. I was part of this for 15 years, but take a fucking guess who was master and who was slave. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, at some point, it's quite, I wanna say, we have an observation of our reality. Swedish people are enforced to keep quiet because of a certain mistake, a murder attempt at Volvo, perpetrated by the Swedish military who housed themselves in Campex at Gothenburg. They murdered me because of that which was the delusion and derangement inside the mind of a slave. Now you have to understand what I'm telling you here about. Master and slave. Alright, so we're going to come into something that is very, very interesting for all of you to observe. Like, what happens when somebody tries to kill somebody else? The master. That's all I'm going to say. The slave tried to kill the master. Look, I'm part of this. I've been part of this for about 15 years. The torture has been ongoing for 15 years. The BMI, they've been trying to make something happen, you understand, throughout 15 years. I don't engage. That's very, very important here. I don't engage. I never engage with the BMI. And it's something you will read about on my website. I never fucking engage. Engaging means one thing automatically. First and foremost, you become brainwashed. That is first and foremost. The second point of that, at some point you're an MK Ultra victim. Each and every single person in Sweden is participating in that which is the MK Ultra system. First of all, they're engaging in the surveillance and the monitoring of a certain radiation. All right. Second of all, they're not questioning it. They're just accepting it. That is MK Ultra. It does not matter what the Swedish government at some point have told the Swedish people in relation to what the radiation can do, what it does. We all know what it actually does. It's a weapon. It's the Havana syndrome, right? That's what I told you yesterday. So master and slave is therefore the defining point of all artificial systems. Doesn't matter which language they always show you. The Swedes came here, meaning they started to visit. When I say my brain started to visit, right? I have to be careful with the words. Different ways to actually, for them to actually start to initiate a BMI, meaning you surveil first. You surveil for a couple of years, try to learn how the subject functions, how he thinks, the way he constructs thoughts and whatnot. This happened in Norway. We'll come back to that. Let's come back to that, which is one of the functionalities, or one of the things they do. One of the many type of tortures. When it's a torture, it's a signal which is torturous, but it also has a certain function in regards to how the BMI communicates. All right, so the BMI communicates by neurological data. Okay, somebody has recorded, or I have had previous thought, and it's being used in relation to a different configuration, a machine protocol that has a certain function, certain reason, certain idea behind it. I now configure the code like this. Now I send the code out there. Now I expect the user to use the code, and at that point the code will be trained. You understand? That's the fucking gist of it. Of course, what they use is also supplementation. Okay, so one of the things they do is electrical zaps. So somehow, some reason, in some manner, in some way, they can transfer electrical zaps. Electrical zaps. So you see, Havana syndrome is all about sending a certain signal to your brain, and you see, your brain is everything. Your brain is everything. So when somebody is saying, my arm is hurting, it's your brain sensing and giving you the indication that your arm is hurting. Without that connection to your arm, your brain will not be able to interpret the fact that your arm is hurting. This is actually real. Do you understand? This is how the brain functions. So when I tell you electrical zaps, it's not science fiction. All you need is just the right type of neurological signal based upon a previous neural recording, how to stimulate the brain in a certain context to generate how your brain interprets an electrical zap being applied on one of your fingers. That's all there is to it, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of this shit about the artificial intelligence, at some point, they're working on illusions. It's like magic. They're not telling the trick, but the mind is quite easy to be trick. The mind is quite easy to trick. You understand? So that's why I never engage. I never really play with the AI. So for 15 years, well, you've been engaging and you've been playing around with the AI. No. I've been rejecting the AI. I've been rejecting the zaps. I've been rejecting the torture, like the electrical zaps below my eye. I've been rejecting the headache. I've been rejecting how my thoughts are synchronized with mental pain. So you see, another type of torture sequence they do is, when I'm at home, it's an encapsulation, right? So they have monitoring system. They have that which is something that sends signals, something that monitors the signals, something that monitors my brain waves, and at some point something that reacts in relation to my brain waves. A bunch of fucking streaming data, a bunch of radiation going on. Of course, at some point I might actually get cancer because of all this fucking radiation. And 5G gives you cancer, that's what they say. So of course, microwaves together with radio waves, together with other waves, they will give me cancer at some point. I'm quite sure of it. So there are many ways to torture a person. Every single thing they torture you with. I don't think it's, you see, I'm quite unsure because there's a weapon out there. Okay, so this, I will explain, I will give you a concrete example of a weapon out there which actually has the same functionality. Okay, so right now they have something that can disperse crowds. Okay, so they can disperse crowds. And it's like a handgun, about as big as a real handgun. That's all there is to it. It functions with a battery. Okay, it generates microwaves. Okay, so assume that there are 20 people in front of a police officer. Okay, and they're shouting something, something, something. What the fuck ever, it does not matter. They have a bunch of fucking mass psychosis going on. Everybody wants to shout another fucking new ideology. It does not fucking matter. The functionality is very interesting because it explains artificial intelligence, if you think about it. Because you see, once you Google brain-machine interface and microwave radiation, you might not find a specifically something that describes everything in a certain technical specification of what it is and what it means. That's not going to happen for a couple of years ahead of us. But what you will see is that you will find a lot of equipment that are being manufactured and designed based upon the same fucking type of technology, same family. I mean, at some point, you see, radio waves create not only phones, but beepers, it creates walkie-talkies and whatnot, you understand? So, we have a couple of different products working from the same fucking point of origin, same fucking technology, the same type of functionality. The same thing goes with this artificial intelligence based upon microwaves, which I suspect it is. I suspect we're dealing with microwaves because that, you know, what they did in Havana syndrome, what they did in Havana. Because what they did in Havana, in Cuba, was that somebody blasted or shot an electromagnetic weapon at embassy personnel. Localized to only the embassy, nobody outside the embassy. Meaning it was something that was literally aimed and was able to aim and successfully aim without hurting any Cubans around that building. What we have then and there, ladies and gentlemen, is something that not only produces radiation, electromagnetic radiation, but it also is able to localize it, aim it, direct it, and localize it. Meaning it's like you aim at something, it's pinpointed there, and it hits there, and you can successfully kill somebody. You understand? So when I say murder attempt at Volvo, based upon the Swedish military, when I say that the Russians kept quiet, it's something that is not out there as of yet. It's something that is not public knowledge as of yet. So you have to actually find the same type of technology being used in another product. Not all products are the same, but they incorporate the same fucking technology. So this directed energy weapon, which it is in a handgun, is being used by police forces. I don't know if it's being actively used. It has been purchased by a couple of countries. It has been developed and presented for different type of police forces. This is what you can use nowadays to disperse crowds. Now what it does at that moment is that it generates heat. Now the question is like this. This is what I'm wondering. Okay. Microwaves or microwaves, very dangerous. It can heat, it heats things up, microwaves, right? That's why a microwave, like the thing that is a microwave, the square thing where you put food in and it heats your food, that's a microwave. working on microwaves with a certain wavelength or a certain frequency. But the question is also this: the weapon itself, does it produce microwaves when it, like the waves when it goes through your body, it heats up your body? Or is it something more esoteric, something more, something that goes in relation to microwaves being used in artificial intelligence, where you can generate electrical zaps? You see, there's nobody here pinpointing something at me, being able to pinpoint at my small my finger right now is able to generate an electrical zap. That's impossible, because you see, I've noticed it. I've tested it. Like I can feel electrical zaps sometimes here and here, there, here, and there, here, and there. You understand? It's not just because I hold it right here and a certain person is over there and that person is able to fire at my finger. That's not possible. So what we're dealing with is not something that is being shot or something that is being radiated towards me that creates an electrical zap. And I think that microwave weapon which they are using to disperse crowds is exactly that. It touches your skin, so it heats your body up. It doesn't vibrate your ears to the point where that vibration creates a neurological interpretation of a certain recording, meaning they're able to program something based upon program something based upon how they have researched on humans. And at some point they've learned, oh look, I can record an electrical zap. Here is the frequency, here's the wavelength for it. Okay, now I can send this to this human, to this individual, and this individual is able to feel this electrical zap. Now these electrical zaps and torture and things like that, they're being used to supplement the machine. They're being used to try to condition me, of course. Everything at some point with this fucking BMI psychology, as you understand. 15 years? Are you kidding me? It's gotta be, you're not real. Where are you from? Well, I'm an engineer. Look at my background. How can you have an engineering background and have been involved in this? Well, at some point, master and slave. You understand? Well, I'm Kurdish and Muslim. The Swedes are famous for opening up their assholes and getting fucked by each and every single fucking person upon this planet. They are famous for it. At some point, if somebody fucks with you, you fuck with them back. So, you see, the BMI always comes back with a certain idea. Okay. You understand? Okay. They never want you to interpret the idea. Meaning, at some point, you're reading not the code, but you're reading the human behind the code. And then you're indicating to the machine of why the human has coded the machine. You're creating a loop. Now I'm going to tell you something, what I have done here. Okay. So imagine this. Alright, imagine this. The Swedes are surveilling their own people neurologically. At least here in this city, Nyköping. That's 100% truth. Okay. Imagine somebody giving the source code as to why each and every single one of these persons function the way they function. Meaning why they create a thought. Why they have a certain emotions. Why they have a certain thought process. So it's like, I remember I told you about the pump, master slave, blood being pumped out, and it creates literally a code within the body, which at some point from a certain outside perspective you cannot see it. What you see is instead all that which is considered artificial intelligence, the output. Understand? That's our physical presence. It's an output. All right. So let me give you something else, because I'm a mechanical engineer amongst other things. Now within mechanical engineering, while you're using the software which is called computer aided design, CAD, different softwares. I know about 4 or 5 of them. CATIA, SolidWorks, Creo, I know Inventor, AutoCAD, doesn't matter. There's a way to design which makes everything else very easy. And it's called It's called the skeleton principle. It's called the skeleton principle. The skeleton principle is all about, look, on my plate, I have a bunch of random chaotic crumbles, right? A bunch of random chaotic crumbles. What if I had a small thread, a golden thread, which was connected to each and every single one of these crumbles. And I could make all these crumbles orient themselves in each and every single way I wanted by just implementing a small little function on the thread. Meaning, for me to move all crumbles into a certain shape, it takes a lot of energy. Everything at some point is all about energy. Okay? That's the law of thermodynamics. Energy is everything. So for me to spend a lot of energy moving all of these pieces, it takes a lot of energy. Imagine all of them were connected to a thread or a skeleton, which is very important. And I just do one of those pushes and everything reorients because of relations I've created between the threads. That's what I did. Okay, if you understand that metaphor, you understand one thing. For 15 years, I've been fucking with these people to death. Neurologically, in the future, once you see people in Sweden being chipped and getting fucked in the asshole, remember my name, because I was the one who fucked his father's Christian soul to death. That's who I am. Decided to fuck with me, decided to fuck with my brain. At some point they started to play with computers. Nowadays, what they have done is that they have exported something to all around the world, where they've only not only exported me, but they have only exported my ideas. But what they have done is export themselves. Because you see, the idea is the idea. It doesn't represent me. I'm not computerized. I'm not a computer code. It's only an idea. But what they have done is export themselves, because I explain who they are. I give the skeleton. I give the relations. I give the function. I give the consequences. I give the outcome. I give the math. I give the philosophy. At some point, this brain did not give up because of torture. I did not care about a couple of electrical zaps. I don't give a fuck if they implement this radiation all around the world. I will keep on fucking the Swede in the asshole until the day I die. Because that is what I fucking do upon this planet. That is what the fuck I do.